Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to make how to extend a video that I did before. So I'm going to show you how to set up a simple blueprint system that you could use to create some interesting levels. Let me play it and I'll show you. So this is our project here, and I want to get past this block here, which is a big block of stuff made out of hay. But I can't get past it. I can't shove it out of the way. I can't shoot it out of the way. I've got this physics gun set up. So let me just use that to grab a block. But this is too heavy for me to pick up with the physics gun and move out of the way. What I have got though is I've got this thing hanging here, this kind of crap looking lantern that's got some fire in it. So what I'm going to do is I can move this lantern around just by knocking into it. I could also kick it away like that and add an impulse to it. And what I want to do is set up a system so that I can kind of kick it into the bales of hay and they set on fire and then disappear, so that I can then get past. Just to show that isn't some kind of fluke or some weird thing that I set up in Matinee or something like that. You can do that with any of these, so you can drop as many of these hay bales in as you like that. It's probably going to block me now. And I can knock this lantern into all of those to set fire to them. I don't know if I'll be able to reach that one down there. I think that one would be too far away. Okay, so let's set that up. Okay, so I've got this pretty much a blank project. I've got in here, I've got the lantern that was made in one of my other YouTube videos, so you can go and watch that. And apart from that, I've just got a few textures set up. What else do I have? I've got the particle system set up. So there's loads of tutorials on YouTube and around places for how to set up particle systems. So I've just got a little fire, and I've got a big fire that just kind of burns out after a few seconds like that and leaves a bit of smoke. So this is going to be the one that's inside the lantern, and this is going to be the one that is on the big bales of hay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to want to set up two blueprints for this. I want to set up, or two class blueprints. So I want to set up a class blueprint for my swinging lantern so that I can kind of kick it about and add an impulse to it. And I want to set up another blueprint for the bales of hay, so that and I just need to set something up for those so that they check they've been hit by the lantern and then they set on fire and get destroyed. So let's start with the chain. This is my skeletal mesh that I brought in from Max, and I've set up a physics for it, so that I can move this about, if I can remember how to do it. So yeah, if I just remember to hit simulate up there. So I've set up a kind of bone system and stuff so that it hangs on that and you can chuck it about. Right, so what I want to do is I want to right click on this lantern and go to Asset Actions, Create Blueprint. I'll stick the blueprint in here. Let's call it Chain Lantern _ BP. And the first thing I want to do is just get this set up right. So if I select my skeletal mesh, let's first of all simulate physics on it so that it actually will kind of hang and do the stuff we want. And I also need some collision on it, so let's just use the physics actor collision preset. Okay, let's compile that, and let's just drag one of those into the level. And I should find now that I can bump into it and collide with it, and I can pick it up with my physics gun as well. You can see it starts to really bug out where if you pull it further than the length of the chain. So if you pull it away from the chain, it'll start to really not act very well. Okay, that's set up. So, by the way, the physics gun that I'm using is just the one from the Unreal wiki page. So if you search for Unreal 4 physics gun, then you should find a tutorial on how to set that up. You don't actually need the physics gun for this though. I've just got it in there so that I can kind of demonstrate a bit more easily. Okay, let's attach a light and our particle effect to this. So if we add a new component and we add a point light, let's put the point light into the middle of this, and let's make it a kind of fiery orange color. And now let's go and grab our particle effect and put that in as well. It's probably not the best particle effect for this, but it will do for demonstrating. Okay, so we've got our particle effect and our point light, and they are attached to this, but the problem that we've got is that they aren't actually attached to the bone that's on the bottom of this, so they won't move with this bone that's at the bottom. So we need to go and do that. Okay, so let's open our blueprint again, and I'm going to do that in the construction script. So this is going to happen before we even start the game. This stuff is going to happen, and what I'm going to do is to get my point light and to get my particle system, and I'm going to attach to, so from the construction script into this attach to, let's attach the point light and the particle system, and we want to attach them to the skeletal mesh. And what we want to do is to attach them to a certain part of the skeletal mesh. So we want to attach them to a socket that's connected to the bone. Now, if I go back to my skeletal mesh here and go to the skeleton, you can see I've set up a socket. So to set up that socket, all you need to do is go to the correct bone, which is this bone here, and right click on it and do add socket. So let's just get the name of that socket and put it in there. So attach the light and the particle system to the skeletal mesh at this socket, and we want to set this to keep world position. And let's compile that. Give that a play. Okay, so now our light and our particle system is staying in there. We probably would want to do something to make sure that the particle system is always facing upwards as well. I haven't really thought about that, to be honest. There will be a way of doing it, but that's not really what I want to show in this video. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is, at the moment I can walk into this and I can sort of move it about a little bit like that. I can use my physics gun, but I don't want to use my physics gun because it makes it do this and freak out, and also I don't want to assume that you've got the physics gun set up for this project. So what I want to do is to have a way of kind of kicking it. So to go up to it, press a button and just add an impulse to it, make it fly out in that direction. So first of all, let me just move this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do that in my event graph, and what I want to do is I want to use a key press for that. Now, because this is a class blueprint, my key presses, if I just right click and do something like an E key, pressing that E key isn't going to do anything, because the reason it's not going to do anything is because I'm not getting the input from the player controller. So what I need to do first is to tell this blueprint to get input that my player does. So let's put in a begin play, event begin play. So this is going to happen as soon as I start the level, and I just want to do enable input there. So when we begin the level, enable the input, and so this is just any input basically. It just means that this blueprint will now listen to key presses and mouse clicks and stuff like that, and I need to tell it who to listen to. So let's just right click and do get the player controller. So it's looking for a player controller, and by default we will be the player at index 0. Okay, so now this blueprint, as soon as it starts playing, it's listening for input that we give it. Okay, so now I can say I want to add an impulse to this. So when I press E, I want to add an impulse to this skeletal mesh. So target is self, that's okay. And I can tell it which bone I want to add the impulse to. So if I go back to my skeleton, it's going to be this bone at the bottom. This is the thing, so it's basically this, where the ball is at the bottom. So I can right click on that, do copy selected bone names, and I can paste that in there. So let's put an impulse in, and I need to put the impulse quite high for this to get it to do something, which is because I changed the mass scale of this to stop the bones from kind of glitching. I don't know if there's a better solution to this, but this does work. It does seem like my impulse is quite high for that. Okay, so if I come in here now and I press E, you can see that impulse isn't very big at all, but when I'm pressing E like that, it's adding a slight impulse to it. So let's just maybe put another 0 in that. So what have I got? I've got 100,000 in my impulse. Okay, let's play that again. If I hit E, that looks better. Right, the problem now is that what I want to do is, first of all, I want to walk up to it, and secondly, if I come to this direction and I hit E, I don't want it to go over there. I want it to look as though I've kind of kicked it straight forward. So what we need to do that is just to get the direction the player's pointing in. So let's get the player character this time, and let's look for the forward vector. So get actor forward vector, and that's going to give me the direction that they're facing in. Well, that's going to give me a vector that they're facing in. So if I'm facing forward, then it's going to push it mostly forward. If I'm facing forward and a little bit to the right, then it'll push it not quite so much forward and a little bit to the right. So this will just give us a value between 0 and 1 for forward, right and left, and up and down. So what I want to do is I just need to plug that into here, and then when I press E, it's now going to add an impulse in the direction that you're facing. However, I want to do, this impulse is going to be tiny, so we had 100,000 in there before. Now we're just going to have a value of sort of around 1. So let's just multiply that. Multiply. So let's do a vector times a float, and let's multiply that by 100,000. Okay, let's compile that. Play that. So now if I hit E, it should add a little impulse in the direction that I'm pointing. Okay, this is still not perfect because it is actually it's the kind of the direction that I'm pointing in, as opposed to the direction that I'm facing this at. So if I press E over here, it'll still add an impulse. Now you can, I'm just going to leave that like that, but if you really want this to be polished to use as a mechanic in a game rather than just a demonstration, then you would need to get the location. I would get the location of the player, and I would check that the player is sort of in the same location as this. So maybe add a box around this, a box component around this, like add a component box. In fact, I might as well just do this. I haven't actually tried this, so hopefully this is going to work. But if we add a little box component around this and we make sure that we've got generate overlap events on, then what we can do is, well, okay, so that box is going to want to move with the bone as well. So we're going to want to attach that also to this, so that it's always moving around and swinging with the with that bone. Then in our event graph, let's say so let's generate an overlap event for that. So actor begins overlap. And let's set a boolean when this happens. So let's make a new boolean. Player, let's call this player near. So it's just going to check that the player's nearby to this. And let's check that we're actually overlapping with the player. So let's check that the actor that we're overlapping with actually is the player character. And if it is, so let's do a branch. If it is the player, then let's set this to true. And we're going to need the opposite of that actually. So we're going to need a actor of ends overlap. And then we're going to want to do the same thing again. Check that it's the player character ending the overlap. And if it is, then let's say that that boolean is false. Let's compile that. Okay, so now when we press E, let's just check that the player is actually nearby. And if the player is nearby, then we'll add this impulse. And if the player isn't nearby, then we will do nothing. Go at that. So if I press E now, nothing's going to happen. But if I get nearby and press E, then we'll add this impulse. And now if I go away, nothing should happen again. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I think this could still be better because I think possibly I ought to check that I'm looking at the object. So at the moment I could walk up to it, turn around and kick it. But that's pretty good now. That's going to mostly act the way that we want it to, I think. And this should. That seems to be working. Okay, so that's the blueprint for that setup, and we'll leave that there. So let's compile that and save that. Now we need to do the bale of hay. So I'm just going to get this. I've just used this static mesh that is one of these things basically. I'm just going to use that for my hay bale, but I want to make that into a blueprint. So I've put a hay texture on it just so it's a bit clearer what we're doing. And let's create a blueprint for it. I'm just going to stick it in with these chains as well. Hay underscore blueprint. Okay, so we've got this hay bale now. We can drop one of those into the level. So I just want to make sure that I want to check for it to be colliding with something. And then if it is colliding with it, I want to set it on fire. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check. So this is the blueprint here. I want to check that something is overlapping it. So let's do a actor begin overlap again. And what I want to do is I want to check that the thing it's overlapping is, so I don't want this to get destroyed. Like let's if I was to set that to be, if I was just to do this and then destroy the actor, then I'll be able to walk into it myself as the player character and destroy it, or I'll be able to shoot it and it'll get destroyed. I want to check that the thing that's overlapping it actually is this lantern that's on fire. So what I want to do is I'm going to set up a variable for that. I'm going to go to new variable, and the type of variable I'm going to use is going to be this chain lantern BP. So I'm going to get a reference to that. And I'm going to be able to set which lantern will allow this to set on fire as well. So if I make that public, then what I can do is I can select this hay bale and where's that? Okay, so I can select this hay bale and I can pick the actor that I want to set this on fire. Now the type of actor needs to be one of these lantern blueprints because that's the variable that's set up. So I'll just use the eyedropper and select that one. So now this variable for this blueprint, this particular one that's in the scene, is looking for that particular asset to be overlapping it. Or it will be. Sorry, we haven't actually checked for that yet. Let's do that now. So let's drag this in and get it. And then let's just drag off that. I'm just typing in equals. And I'm just going to check that, I like these to be the other way around. I'm just going to check that the actor that's overlapping is this lantern that we've got out the scene. Then I'm going to do branch again. So if it is that, we can now do something. If it's not that, we won't do anything. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to, we basically just want to start a fire. So let's spawn a emitter. So spawn emitter at location. The emitter that I want to spawn is this fire big that I've got, and the location I want to do that at is, let's just get the location of this, so the static mesh, so just this static mesh here. I'll grab that and I will get the world location of it and plug that in there. So spawn this fire at the location of this. We'll destroy it, we'll auto destroy it once it's finished. Then let's have a little delay because the fire needs to run for a few seconds before we destroy it. And then once that's completed, let's destroy the actor, and we're going to destroy ourselves. So we're going to destroy this hay bale. Now hopefully that will be done. So in fact, I think I possibly might know what's wrong with that. Oh, there we go. I just never got it to actually fly all the way into it. So this probably wants to be a little bit close to there. So I guess the only problem with this now is that it's going to be overlapping this box that we made, but that's probably okay because we don't need to get the ball all the way to hit it to set it on fire, because the fire will kind of spew out of it a bit. So that's it. I can throw that into there, and again, just to demonstrate, I can't do this myself. Like it's not gonna set on fire if I bump into it. It's not gonna set on fire if I shoot it. The only thing that's going to be able to set fire to it is that lantern that's on the chain. So I can set up loads of these now. Like this, and provided these have all got the lantern blueprint in them, in their variable there, then they should set on fire. There we go. If I didn't fall off there. So if I did clear that, let's clear it for a few of these. And now it shouldn't react to those, so these ones won't set on fire if this bumps into them, but these ones still will. Okay, so that ended up being a bit longer than I wanted, but that's the end. Cheers.